So I would posit the question of like, buy it with what? So this first of all, who's the super rich? Do they have anything that they can actually use to buy any of this stuff up? Because most of the so-called super rich that most people think of, that we all think of as the super rich, they just have super debt. That's it. They don't really, most of these people don't have a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out of as far as like any actual value, right? I mean, they just don't. They have enormous amounts of debt. They've got that. They've got a whole bunch of debt dollars printed from nothing. They've got a bunch of that. But they don't really have, most of these people don't really have anything that is, how would they buy any of this land? How would they hold it, etc.? That, like, this is why they have to have governments. This is why they push for governments, and they push to have all these rules and regulations and shit. Like, this is why they do all this. They do this because they know they can't hold on to all of this by themselves. They have to create, armies of goons to try and protect these so-called real estate holdings. No, there's really no way to do it. I mean, the British Empire couldn't do it. The Roman Empire couldn't do it. Like, the American Empire isn't going to be able to do it. None of these empires can actually last. The Chinese Empire will not be able to do it, nor will the Russians. They just won't. None of this stuff works because it's too big, and people can just take it from you. All right. I mean, this is why they push the idea of understanding, having borders and everything for your country. That's why I covered that at the very end, is if you're going to have men that are going to be able to protect the country, and do they have anything in common? Do they have a reason to want to protect it that is free, right? Because otherwise you have to pay guys. And as soon as you have to pay guys to protect your holdings, right, then you're going to go broke. Because especially if you have to pay them in hard, let's say you have to pay everybody in real estate, for example. Right, you're some super rich guy. I use this analogy all the time. Let's say that Earth was your private estate, right? Eventually, you're going to need to have some guys to do some stuff, and they're going to say, okay, well, I want Australia as my private estate, right? Or I want Texas as my personal estate. And then those guys are going to need people to help them do stuff. Like, that's just how this works. And eventually, the people who do all of the work will end up with 80% of the wealth again. That's just how it's 80-20 rule. If you're dealing with hard currency, this is why they want paper currency. This is why, like, to me, and I'm not picking on the question, I'm just pointing out, it's like, that's why this doesn't work. Why do you think they have to perpetually keep these goddamn pyramid schemes going? It's because there is no way for them to do any of this stuff. There just isn't. I mean, it's the math catching up. And so no, I would suggest that, like, yeah, I mean, if you didn't have property taxes, again, they could try and buy everything up, but buy it with what? I mean, this is where we have to understand that, like, at a certain point, the things that people think are worth something. Here's a good rule of thumb. Whatever most people right now think is completely worthless is probably extremely valuable. And the stuff that people think is really valuable right now is probably stuff that you don't even need in your life and probably never did. It's just, it's a fundamental paradox. It's just how people are, right? It's just over time. It's marketing. That's all it is. Okay. There's a reason why a lot of people didn't live in like gigantic mega houses, because it was a lot to maintain that shit. There was that great example of, Leona Helmsley, right? When she died, her family tried to sell her estate. They couldn't get anybody to buy it because it was ridiculous. It was an absurd amount of money, and anybody who would buy it, like, why would you buy it? Like, if you're a billionaire and you're going to look at buying this house, like, why would you buy it? It was an older house and it needed to have a lot of renovations done. If you're a billionaire, why wouldn't you just buy your own property and then just build your own house to your liking? You understand? Put yourself in that position, right? I'm not saying you specifically, the person asking this question, but I'm just saying anybody in general. Put yourself in the position of a billionaire. What would you do? Most of you would not do any of the shit that most of you see the billionaires doing right now. Why? Because these guys aren't as rich as you think they are. They're just not. I don't know how else to explain it, but you're just going to take my word for it if you can't figure out the math on it. They have nothing but enormous amounts of debt and debt-based dollars. That's it. Most of them don't have anything of any actual value. It's just the way that it is. It's just how, I mean, and unfortunately, a lot of people that find this account now, because there's like thousands of people following me now and everything, most people haven't gone back to like the videos that are years old that I explained all this shit. Like all of this was explained a long time ago and stuff. And I try to bring it up and I try to review it here and there and stuff. But I mean, I just assume that a lot of people kind of followed along. But no, that's really it. I don't think that, I think that if Hernando, what's his name? I cannot remember for the life of me the last name of he was the first Spaniard. He was a Western European who crossed the Mississippi River. If he crossed the Mississippi River and said, okay, this is all mine now, I'm just going to pick this as my private estate, his men would have laughed him, I mean, he'd have been laughed right back onto the boat. That is like, dude, you're out of your mind. How are you gonna farm this? How are you gonna irrigate it? How are you gonna take care of any of it? How are you gonna do any of this stuff? You're not gonna do any of this because you need to have lots and lots and lots of people to do all this. This is why so many people out there right now are becoming panicked. A lot of your countries right now, the leaders are panicking, and this is why you're getting the most retarded people in politics right now. People have no answers for anything. They're giggling, laughing weirdos because they have nothing to say. The population is shrinking. You've got 93 plus, I think it might even be more now, countries that are in demographic decline. They're not even at replacement levels. And in order to run a giant pyramid scheme, you need one thing: lots of people. And when you run out of people, or people just stop being involved in it, then it goes away. So, I mean, I hope that kind of answers the question on that. But it's like, no, I mean, the super rich idea of just claiming all of this land and territory as theirs, yeah, that's not going to happen anymore. There isn't the money, there isn't the men, there isn't the willpower, there isn't any of that stuff to support or control any of this. This is why I pointed out in the original video that this comes from, is that you have to have enough men to be able who want to defend it. And of course, the only way you're going to be able to find men to defend it is if they own a piece of it. And if they own a piece of it, then you can actually talk to them about patriotism, like actual patriotism, because they own a piece of it and they are in fact a part of the program. But if you've taken all of that away from them, then there's no reason for them to really do anything. What, for worthless little pieces of paper? Who cares about that? I mean, was it Napoleon Bonaparte, I think, who said, I've discovered a remarkable thing, men will die for ribbons? Yeah, not anymore. Not anymore. They're not doing that any longer.